Welcome to Philosophy in Pajamas podcast. We are skipping the formal lecture today because we're dealing with something that, frankly, hits a little too close to home for academic attire. I'm talking about the pure, the beautiful, the utterly exhausting phenomenon of confident ignorance.
It is the ultimate human comedy, isn't it? We're doing a focused analysis of a source called Ignorance, a comic lesson in self-delusion. And it really, it pulls no punches in separating genuine wisdom from its loud, oblivious cousin.
That distinction is so important. This isn't about people who just lack a piece of information. We all have gaps. We're focusing on that person who is joyfully, almost spiritually wrong, but delivers their opinion with the certainty of a prophet.
And our mission today is really to unpack the source's witty insights, to arm you, the listener, with some tools for self-reflection and, to be honest, for mental self-preservation. The source kicks things off with this surprisingly grim but also funny observation. It draws a parallel between profound ignorance and death itself.
And what a parallel it is. Think about it. Death is, for the most part, painless for the person who's died. They're done. The lights are off. All the suffering, the grief, the cleanup that falls entirely on the living, on those left behind.
And the source argues that with a certain kind of deep-seated ignorance, the pattern is identical. The truly foolish person.
Yeah.
They rarely suffer from their own limitations.
Yeah.
The primary hurt, the actual damage, it falls on everyone around them.
Exactly. The only real difference is that the person is still breathing, and they're probably standing right in front of you, offering life advice with the confidence of a magician who never practiced the trick. That complete lack of an internal feedback loop, that's the real source of pain for everyone else.
So I think that's the core question we have to unpack today. Why does engaging with this kind of self-assured foolishness feel like actual manual labor with your mind?
Yeah.
And what is the real cost of that labor to our own sanity?
Let's start with the anatomy of unknowing. Okay, let's do it. Our source paints this incredibly vivid portrait of the truly ignorant person. They're not just an empty vessel. They're described as having the intellectual awareness of a window that never opens.
It's a sealed unit.
Sealed unit. No fresh air, no new perspectives allowed in.
And that metaphor is so good because it really captures the passivity of it all.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're actively fighting knowledge. They're just impermeable to it.
Right. And what makes it so tragic and also so funny is that they just don't get the gravity of their own limitations. So while the rest of the room is filling up with these silent, suppressed groans and eye rolls.
Oh, yeah. The internal screams.
So they're just beaming. Beaming like they've done a huge public service, sometimes smiling as if they've solved global hunger with some half-baked thought they had in the shower.
That beaming confidence, that unearned certainty, that's the fuel for the whole delusion. The source calls it astonishing and almost spiritual in its delusion. It's this sort of internal shield. It just rejects any kind of complexity for simple, easy answers.
It's the kind of confidence that makes you question your own reality, right? You find yourself staring at the wall wondering, did I miss something? Did I misread the last 20 years of established science? Only to realize, no, they're just determined to win an argument without the bother of having to be right.
And this social friction, it doesn't always show up as, aggressive shouting. The source gives us that perfect analogy. How stupidity often marches in like a tipsy uncle at a wedding who insists on giving a speech.
Ugh. We've all been there. We all know that uncle. You start listening with just a tiny bit of hope, thinking, okay, maybe this is going somewhere.
Maybe he's got a point this time.
But then, 30 seconds in, the train is just completely derailed, and you spend the rest of the night regretting all of your life choices that led you to that moment.
And here's the critical part. The uncle leaves the microphone thinking he delivered a masterpiece, like a real turning point in the history of oratory. And that's the friction. The huge gap between how he sees it and how everyone else sees it.
And that contrast really defines the cost. The source points out that when you're with a genuinely wise person, the whole interaction is restorative. They listen, they reflect, you leave feeling lighter, more energized, they're additive.
But the foolish person is purely subtractive. They just deplete your energy. They make you feel like you are doing that intense, back-breaking manual labor with your mind. You're basically doing the intellectual heavy lifting for two people just to keep the conversation from collapsing.
Which, that brings us right to the physical and mental toll of it all. This isn't just about a simple disagreement. It's a genuine, quantifiable drain on your psychological resources.
The source is so specific about this feeling. It says after just 5 minutes of a futile argument, your soul feels like it has been carrying sandbags up a staircase. It's this weight you're carrying because you're constantly trying to prop up the foundations of reality while someone else is just chipping away at them.
It's like intellectual collateral damage. You walk away from the conversation holding your head because you feel like your IQ is leaking. You've spent all this focus, this patience, this logic. For what? Just to confirm the other person is immune to it.
And this is where we need to look at the barriers that make any kind of correction basically impossible. It's not just that they haven't heard a fact. It's that they've built a fortress around their opinion. The source says advice just bounces off them like rubber balls on marble. Facts slide off. Logic just evaporates into thin air.
And what's so frustrating is that the effort you put in becomes part of your own exhaustion. You feel like you have to argue, you have to correct, because the wrongness is so, well, wrong. But the more you try, the faster your own battery drains.
So why? Why is it so impenetrable? The source has this one analogy that is just so perfectly frustrating. It says trying to explain logic to them is like trying to upload a file using a charger cable.
Oh, that's good.
You have the cable, you have the device. It looks like it should work. It feels like it should work, but it just never does.
That points to a total incompatibility of systems, doesn't it? You're running on an operating system of, evidence and objective reality. They're running on a system of identity defense and confirmation bias. Your facts aren't just information to them. They're a personal attack on who they are.
Exactly. They aren't trying to process data. They're just trying to protect the structure they've built for themselves. And the really sad part is, the foolish person rarely knows they're exhausting the room. It's not usually malicious.
No, they genuinely think they're adding value. They stroll around tossing their opinions like confetti at strangers. Yeah. And we're the ones left with the broom, just trying to sweep up the mess while smiling politely.
The sheer hopelessness of it all is why the source really hammers home the futility of a long argument.
Yeah.
You could show up with everything. Evidence, logic, ancient scrolls, and video footage.
Yeah.
Absolute ironclad proof.
And what happens, you'll still get that condescending little grin, and they'll insist that you're just overthinking. They dismiss everything with a bravery that only ignorance provides. It's an impenetrable shield.
But, if we step back for a second, we have to acknowledge what the source calls the comic tragedy of it all, which means we have to turn that same lens back on ourselves.
Yes, and this is the moment of, I think, necessary humility in the source. It's the unavoidable admission. We all take turns being foolish. Nobody gets to escape this completely.
Right. And these lapses, they happen when our own intellectual defenses are down, when life becomes too much, or when our ego gets loud, or when we just get lazy and skip reading, skip thinking, skip self-awareness.
It's in those moments of mental fatigue, isn't it? You grab the nearest, easiest opinion, and you cling to it for dear life. And you don't even realize that you've just become the tipsy uncle at the wedding.
And while you're blissfully unaware, feeling brilliant, the consequences are just rippling outwards. A friend is screaming internally. A partner is planning a solo vacation. A colleague suddenly stops believing in teamwork.
Wow. The damage is real, even if we aren't the ones feeling the burden. So, if more facts isn't the cure, what is? Our source offers a different definition of what true intelligence actually is. And it's not about how many facts you can recall.
Exactly. The source pivots the definition entirely. It's not about knowledge acquisition. True intelligence is defined by curiosity, humility, and the willingness to be wrong without insecurity.
The willingness to be wrong without insecurity, that right there, that's the mark of real depth. The people who are genuinely knowledgeable, they never feel the need to parade their minds around. The source says they upgrade themselves silently, like a phone that installs updates without bragging.
You just feel their competence. It's in their steady clarity, not in some big performance. They're always learning, always revising their own ideas, and that requires admitting you have flaws and embracing complexity. They get that certainty is often the enemy of progress.
So the real difference is how they handle being wrong. The smart person sees an error as a map to something better. The confidently ignorant person sees an error as, what? An existential threat that must be defeated at all costs.
Which brings us to the really practical part of this for you, the listener. If these interactions are a living version of conceptual decay, then how do we protect ourselves?
If the battlefield is rigged, we need a better strategy than just trying to win every single time. We have to focus on self-preservation.
And the source offers a very simple, non-confrontational solution. You don't argue endlessly. You don't try to make them your personal rescue mission. The whole strategy is mastering the subtle art of stepping away before your inner peace starts writing resignation letters.
I think that is maybe the most valuable piece of advice in the whole thing. Not every conversation is worth your sanity. You have to be able to recognize when you're no longer communicating, you're just doing manual labor. And when you cross that line, disengaging isn't rude, it's necessary.
The guiding principle has to be, not every point needs to be corrected by you. And not every flawed person needs to be fixed by you. Some conversations just have to be a graceful goodbye to protect your own resources.
It's about triage, really. You're prioritizing your own mental health over the need to be right in a game you can't win. You're choosing peace over proving a point that was never going to land anyway.
And while that distance is so important, the source ends with a really beautiful, nuanced take. It says we should still keep a soft corner for those we distance ourselves from, because we have to remember we are all flawed travelers.
And we never know when life is going to hand us that same mirror. Some of us just trip over the same ideological rock more often than others, but we all have our own little pockets of delusion somewhere.
So ultimately, the source gives us one last, powerful defense mechanism to use against that bright glare of misplaced confidence.
Which is to carry your wit like sunscreen.
Yeah.
Use humor, use distance, use grace. It'll save you from that bright, bright glare that the confidently ignorant just project everywhere.
And what's great is the final punchline. It brings the whole death versus foolishness comparison full circle. Death can't be helped, but foolishness can be cured. But there's a huge condition. It can only be cured if ego is willing to retire. And that is the price of evolving.
That is a profoundly insightful place to leave you, and it brings this all back home. So we ask you, which aspect of your daily life, your knowledge, your ego, or your humility is silently installing updates this week? And which one is insisting on grabbing the microphone to give a tipsy, self-assured speech, something critical to mull over? We hope this exploration gives you some useful tools for your own mental self-preservation and maybe a little chuckle at the absurdity of it all. If you enjoyed this conversation and found some value here, please, we encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to Philosophy in Pajamas Podcast's YouTube channel.